This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher Magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And hi once again, Mike Blinder, publisher, E&P Magazine. I don't know if you know John Kelly, known him for years. You may know him because you might subscribe to his morning email, the Daily Clips, or you may have worked with him over the years because he's had gigs at Cox and Gannett, VP of Revenue, Richmond Times-Dispatch, VP Advertising, the Palm Beach Post, worked for the Daily Herald, News Tribune, even spent years at the SAC-B, head of retail advertising. But like me, John is an old guy, an old F. You may hear us use those words during our interview. But we're going to explore the sales culture. And we're going to do it kind of looking at where it is today in the media industry and what worked before in the media industry, and maybe what's old should be adopted today. Well, you'll have to make that decision, but you're going to watch two old Fs here talk about media sales as I go one-on-one with John Kelly. Oh, good friend of mine. I love these interviews where I get to see a good friend who makes me look old and fat. John Kelly, welcome to E&P Reports.
Thank you.
We're both Floridians at the time of this recording. There's snow up north, and you and I are just up complaining about our 60-degree weather down here, aren't we? John, you got a long background in this industry. You've held a lot of senior management positions. You run a very, very successful read morning email called Daily Clips. I subscribe to it. Thousands do. And you've been doing that for a long time too, right? That's not something.
Right. Yeah, I've been doing it for over 20 years. Yeah.
And you come like me, you come from the sales side, right? The business side.
Absolutely. Yep.
Street fighters, I like to say. So I thought we'd have some fun today, John, in 30 minutes and just kind of get your opinion, because you've worked for some of the biggest companies out there. I mean, and had senior level positions. Get your opinion on where the industry is today, especially the business side. And if I may pick your brain on advice you would give anyone right now that's struggling. I mean, I know I always joke, this is my fourth down economy, right? Because I'm in my 60s. And you've been through a few as well. But let's start off right now with your thoughts on, we're in a COVID world, right? It's a crisis world, but there's been some benefits, don't you agree? I mean, our audiences have grown by leaps and bounds.
Yeah. It's obvious. I mean, you see the numbers of people that are connecting digitally, all age groups, which is fabulous. It's good for what I call our industry, whatever it is nowadays. I think there's a degree of excitement. I don't know if I'd want to be in this business 100% right now. As a salesperson, I like making face-to-face calls and doing everything via Zoom and things like that. It's really hard to build relationships that way. And when you're trying to sell large schedules or small schedules, it makes no difference. I mean, if you're face to face with that person or you've built a relationship with them over a period of time, you get a lot more done, I think, so it's a challenging time, no doubt about it. And I've talked to a lot of friends. I still do a lot of consulting as well. But in a way, I'm glad I'm not there day to day taking the brunt of it. But the transition is kind of fun to see. I've always been, yeah.
I want to get your comment on this. The last flight I took, which was about a year ago, was to the Burrell conference. I used to travel 100,000 miles a year. Here I am taking a 30-minute hop over to Miami from Tampa because the drive is too long. And the gentleman from Yellow Pages, Haibu, was doing a big speech about their brand new rollout and all the new products they were launching in digital services. And I asked him about sales. And I was the sales guy in the audience. Mm-hmm. And the response was like, we're just not focusing on that anymore. It's all DIY. Do it yourself. You're shaking your head already.
Yeah.
Tell me, but see, they would call us old guys, right? You don't get it now. Sales is no, give me your perspective on that. Will there always be a salesperson of some form, shape, and size building a relationship in the mix, in your opinion?
I think absolutely. And I think that's where I'm really disappointed in our industry. I'm just totally disappointed. Because, at least in my market, I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. there must be 6 or 10 publications out there, and there's also digital experiences out there that have local advertising in it. And yet I look at my local newspaper and it's got nothing. It's got standby advertising it. I look at the website. The website has very little on it. And I've got to say, I think it's that they've cut and cut and cut. They no longer call on their customers. A lot of my consulting customers that I go to see, I ask them, did you know the customer? Well, I emailed them, and that part of it, I think there's a huge opportunity for us. But I think, and certainly I think everyone agrees, the opportunity more than ever is in the local side. The national clients are trying to get to the local business, into the local markets. And the newspaper in itself for years has been traditionally positioned to take the local markets, and yet we're walking away from it. And that's scary.
Well, it's interesting you would mention that, because I remember doing a paper on this. I wrote it for INMA because in 1 month I worked with you when you were at a TV station in Palm Beach, correct? You were.
Well, I said Palm Beach Post. Yeah. Uh-huh.
You were at the, excuse me, I worked with you at the Palm Beach Post.
Yes.
And I worked with a TV station there.
At the same time. Right.
At the same time. You let me do that. Now I remember.
Yes.
And the TV station sales team was 7. And when I worked with your sales team, it was 47.
Yes.
And see, that's the thing because I was in radio and TV before I got into newspapers, and the teams are smaller because they tend to be more transactional. They go for regional business. I'm not against selling agencies, but I don't think you sell an agency, you negotiate with an agency.
Right.
The sales process is a direct tie to a business decision maker. I mean, I know you agree with me on that. Mm-hmm. The problem is every report you read from people like Gordon Burrell or Kelsey is all the opportunity is local, right? Most businesses.
Absolutely. Yep.
Why is it then that media companies say it's too much trouble? We're just going to do it with a call center. We're going to do it by email. We're going to automate the process, and we're just going to go after the big fish. Why is that become the new, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got the larger companies, whether the equity firms or whether it's a larger, and I'll use the name Gannett and things. And I worked for Gannett for a period of time as well. And they want a fast buck, they want a quick turnaround, and they're not willing to invest in any kind of a solution. The thing that I find is really hopeful is you've got a lot of the smaller, or let's say family-owned newspaper groups or media groups that are still out there. The Walter Husbands out there, of the world. You got the Forums, you got the Adams, you got Blade Communications, Pittsburgh and Toledo. They've got some other things going on that are challenging, but they come up with some very, very sophisticated, digital solutions, and they're good at it. I wish they could get by some of their other hurdles, but focusing on local is what those guys do best, and they're able. And if they put an initiative out there, they'll ride it for a while. With some of the larger companies, if it doesn't turn the corner in a period of weeks, they can it, or they're not even willing. If the ROI is not there within a few weeks, they can it. They don't even consider it. So.
Well, the obvious
that makes it tough.
The counter to that, and I still consult, as you do. I mean, E&P has been definitely a great ride. We're definitely turning it around, but I got to still make some money on the side. And what I hear is I can't get anyone to want to sell for me. I mean, I'm sure you're hearing the same thing. No. Recruiting salespeople is why? What is the solution to that? Do you have a solution?
I think it's you got the kids, and I call them kids because you and I are a little older than most of the folks, because that's who you have to find, right, in a lot of cases. But they're in it for themselves. They're not looking for 30-year careers. I mean, nobody works for anybody. I mean, whether it's in the media business or anywhere else, they want to make a quick buck. And the thing that is very frustrating is that they want to come to work probably a half hour later in the morning than you told them to come to work, and they want to leave the half hour earlier than you're supposed to stay. So they don't want to work real hard, but they're going to get paid real well. If you pay them well and you find some real, what I call gunners, they'll be with you for a couple of years, and at best, if you could develop them, and then they move on to something else that pays them. But you got to pay them, and we have not been an industry that's been willing to pay people.
Yeah.
On all sides, and it's the accountants get involved in it and things like that. We like a product that you come out with, you got to be willing to stick with it and let it mature. With salespeople, you got to pay them well and let them mature, and they'll, as they get better, they'll stay with you.
I always say that if you want to have the sales process ensue with a local business owner, you need to have a human being that understands business that
Yes.
makes the appointment. If it's someone who's just going in to sell a commodity, the sale will never happen. So you need mature people.
Yeah.
You need people who have some entrepreneurial background. I can train anyone how to sell an inch or an impression. Do you agree?
Yeah.
But how do you train for that empathy, that level of, because they know they want to do business with someone who understands business, right? And that's what you got to find. And it costs
even
money.
even pre-COVID, I mean, newspaper salespeople, because we didn't pay well and we had a lot of churn. You go out and you call on a customer and you go, I see my newspaper, rep. They come every time they've got a special that benefits them, benefits the newspaper, but doesn't do me a whole lot of good. And they're selling me that, but they're not trying to help me and my business grow. And, the thing I focused on my whole career is programs that make the cash register ring. If I can make the cash register ring, I'm successful. And that guy will buy, or that business will buy a lot from me, and they'll trust me down the road. We don't do that. And we haven't learned that. There's some folks that have, but by and large, we haven't.
We are way up on advertising revenue in E&P, and people ask me why, and I say because I don't sell ads. I just don't even know what an ad is. We tailor everything to the customer, and it's all about lead generation here, right? You have to help the vendor find a lead. It's all about, do you want to do branding? Do you want instant return? We have both. We can do, you got to teach the advertiser and take them through the journey of what advertising is. You just don't walk in and say, here, I got an ad for you. Do you want to buy it? And so what do you do with the media companies now that, actually I know some that say, if it ain't 10,000 a month, don't go after it. Is that there's no hope in that?
No, I don't disagree. Do you remember going back, the term "you live and die" by the majors?
Yes. Yes.
Well, guess what we're doing? We're dying because the majors aren't there anymore. You don't have page after page at Macy's or Dillard's or anything else like that. You've got to grow your small businesses. And I'm sorry, but what they're saying is you've only got, let's say if I had 40 some salespeople at the time I was at Palm Beach Post. I don't know what the number is today, but I bet you it's less than 15. They can't cover the geography that's there. So the commitment has not been made to cover the geography to go after that less than $10,000 account. But I could sell a lot of those guys, and I can sell a bunch of them a whole lot faster than it's going to take me to try to recover a Macy's or a Dillard's or something like that, who aren't coming back. They've gone off and done their own thing. And because I think we fell down on the job, and we didn't keep the audiences up. We didn't keep our circulations up. Our digital audience is growing certainly, but collectively we're not doing the job we need to do for those folks, and we're not getting the performance we need for people like Macy's. So we've got to focus on local, and we've got to become a local central for the other thing I'm very frustrated with is we have so much opportunity in recruitment, local, automotive, local, real estate, local. That if I'm looking for a job, I'm not looking for a job in San Francisco right now. I want to find a job that I can stay in the same bed in the same house I'm in, roll out of bed and go to a new job that's relatively close. If I have a concentration, I have a good penetration of local jobs on my website, and then I'm going to be successful. And if I put that together in a hub where I've got healthcare, I've got employment, I've got automotive, I've got real estate, and I'm at a central point, I could do that. We've gone off and created the cars.coms and all the other things that drove people away from our sites more than they kept them in.
So you're bullish on verticals. You would stay in the jobs, homes, cars, and stuff space. You would just make it very, very hyper local.
I would. I'd centralize it in a hub, so that I'm constantly exposed to those verticals as opposed to only going to that vertical. So I would go to whatever the ABC newspaper site, and I have my options of local news, local whatever. But if I'm looking for a tire place or if I'm looking for a dentist, I can get it at one point, one place, and I don't have to search for 5 different verticals to get there.
I agree. I launched a jobs vertical at E&P, and we're seeing 25% growth every month. But God forbid, I have a salesperson that's doing outbound selling, as opposed to just. I mean, so the other thing you have to do is you have to develop relationships with the realtors. God forbid, right? Rather
Yep.
than making it inbound. Or I guess we always did treat automotive as a display customer, didn't we, as an industry?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone back and forth. Some companies called them classified, even though we let them run forward the newspapers. And I mean,
Right.
that was a stupid thing. I mean,
Yes.
it was just plain stupid. But I worked with the newspaper in Charleston, West Virginia, before they went bankrupt. Hopefully not because of me, but we actually created but it never launched because they went bankrupt right before they could get it going. But it created a statewide automotive website getting the newspapers together, and did the same thing for recruitment, where the newspapers would own it. And it's small. I mean, West Virginia is a small enough of a state that you could do that, but in other areas you can do it just within your regional geography. Huge opportunity, but you don't have the feet on the street to support it.
What about print? Would you, if you were given a whole mess of money today and to take over an operation, and you're now looking not just at I mean, in sales, we tend to look at the top line, right? I mean, just
Right.
build revenue. Would you be printing still 7 days a week, or would you be considering, like they did here in Tampa Bay, cut back on the frequency?
I think it depends on the market. And I think, for example, here in Palm Beach, we've got obviously, they call us heaven's doorstep, because we've got a lot of older people who grew up reading newspapers. And so I think there's still an opportunity. What we're printing nowadays is terrible. I mean, it's just, and I could talk for hours on how the newsroom has destroyed the newspaper, but I think there's still an opportunity. I think going back, I think there's no doubt we needed to get into the digital world. I'm absolutely 100%, but it wasn't a light switch. So it wasn't like you flipped off print and you went to digital. I like to say it should be more like a dimmer, where you kind of slide out, because the younger generations, if you can get them, aren't as interested in reading a newspaper, but they will go online and look for news. So create both experiences, have both experiences. I still think there's opportunity. Once again, dependent on the market and what the demos are in the market. If you've got a very young, affluent market, I don't know that your print experience is going to be that great.
Talk to me about the management. You likely agree with me. Whenever I went into a operation to try to fix sales, the challenge to me was always in the sergeant, the guy that was running the sales team, whoever was motivating, leading, and coaching the team under them. What kind of personality, in your opinion, does it take today to be a really successful advertising leader in today's world? What do you look for?
That's, as I said earlier, I'm kind of glad I'm not in the world, because you don't even, from what I'm seeing right now, you're not even seeing your salespeople. A lot of cases, they're not coming into the office. You're managing a group of, basically, reps that you have in different states. I mean, even though they are in your local market, everything's being done via Zoom. That's a hell of a challenge, I think. To me, the biggest challenge, and I'll use Gannett as an example. Every Gannett market is underperforming and always has underperformed, because their managers are so focused on budgeting and initiatives, and they never leave the office. Never left the office. And there's not a Gannett market in the country that is not underperforming, because they're so tied up in the paperwork and the numbers and whatever else corporate wants. If you can get out on the street with your salespeople, that's the way to do it. And that's where your good sergeant does it. And it's not every day, but it goes out. You've got to give them that one-on-one time. and you can't do it in the office anymore because
No.
in a lot of cases the office doesn't exist. And so you got to be out there and you got to be on the road. I don't think we're giving them the tools to be able to do that.
I always said that the only way to coach a salesperson is in the car, not the classroom. You have to be, and you got to also learn, if I may give you my 2 cents on this, is you got to learn to shut up and let them do the job. You can't jump in and save a sale. You
No.
gotta, I always say the coach of a football team doesn't run on the field and kick the ball. He stands on the sideline with his arms crossed, watching the play, and then coaches them during halftime. But you got to be there during the sales process, which means you got to spend half your time outside the office.
Yeah.
And it's a hard job. The other challenge I'm seeing in the industry, and maybe you disagree, is comp. I don't know if you had a secret model to compensation, but I see such a need now to hit a bottom line that the comp is totally on dollars. And do you disagree with me? Sometimes
No,
you got to be much more.
But to find that compensation program, if I knew how to do it, if I could if I could find the perfect one, I'd be in a large yacht somewhere in the Caribbean. It's a very frustrating dynamic. It's trying to find the right comp. And I agree with you 100%. It's that comp. And you got to find that right. And in today's world too, with younger salespeople, different things turn them on. And, and then you're fighting other factors, which is primarily your finance department, who doesn't, it doesn't hit the bottom line right, and or on the balance sheet correctly, and they don't let you do it.
What about when you're working with a sales team and you're trying to motivate them to sell, how should I say, in a COVID world? And I know you're still consulting some people. Mm-hmm. Do you believe, because you're running a very successful newsletter, do you believe that Zoom, you can find a way to have that energy cross over in a screen? Are you coaching them into that? Or do you feel like you just can't wait for the day that we're back out there doing face-to-face selling?
I can't wait. That's just my nature and my upbringing. I can't wait for the day. I mean, but I'll be honest with you. Zoom is a wonderful tool. I mean, it's made a lot of inroads, and it's helped a lot, certainly. And because we didn't have any other options. And so it grew very quickly for everything. I mean, I belong to a number of boards, and frequently I'm either out of town or in meetings. I could do, I can dial in via Zoom, and I'm good to go. I don't, as I said in the very beginning, I don't think you can build long-lasting relationships via Zoom. You got to be there, whether it's a local account or whether it's a national account. You got to be in front of those people, and some of them don't want to see you either. So it's a yin and yang on that thing.
All right. So let's, by the way, we have a rule here at E&P. You're not allowed to say the words new normal on one of our podcasts, okay? Because it's been so overly used. But some say the new normal is that conventions won't happen again. We won't be shaking hands. We won't be together again. We won't be social again. Movie theaters will not open again. You're nodding your head. You don't believe in that, do you? You believe
I know. I hear you, and I'm so disappointed because I'll tell you, through the various iterations that, let's say, the NAA to all the, everything else that it's been called since. Those meetings were so critical to me, and I think to our industry. Not the sessions that were put together, not necessarily. I mean, there was occasional good speaker and things like that, no doubt. But the things that happened in the hallways, the things that happened after the sessions, the relationships you could build there, where you could exchange ideas, were, you couldn't put a value on that. There's another group that I used to belong to, and they've changed names now, but it used to be called the Midwest Newspaper Ad Execs Association.
I remember them. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the Midwest. I mean, it wasn't like, it was founded in like 1915. When you would go, they'd meet twice a year. When you would go, and it was only about 30 newspapers, you had to bring something to share. You had no speakers. You had Before the meeting started, everybody sent in questions, challenges that they were having in their particular markets. And this group sat around a table, all facing each other, and discussed those issues and what they did in their markets. Then they shared very productive revenue generating ideas they were coming up with in their markets. You would walk away with thousands of dollars worth of ideas. That's where those meetings are critical. By taking everything and having meetings just for publishers, that makes no sense. Half those guys can't balance their own checkbooks, I think. And do no, I'm being biased, but they come from the newsroom side by and large, and they don't get it. And you need to have salespeople feed off each other. And if you can create that, and that includes sales managers and VPs of advertising, they need to grow. And there's no way they're going to grow. If you have a company conference, that's incestuous. There's nothing growing there. It's the same crap that's been going around all year. You need to have that cross-pollination. And,
but on the sales side,
yes,
and it's, as soon as they slash budgets, the publisher's the one that's going to the meetings, and the sales managers aren't getting.
They're
out.
staying home. Yeah,
they're staying home.
And that's where, I mean, Burrell and others came up with it, and you had Centro, you've doing it for a while, and those at least created that cross pollination in it. I think we're going to die on the vine if we don't cross pollinate.
You realize, of course, and that there's a bunch of people listening to this and viewing this who are saying these are just two old farts, excuse my French, who don't understand the new world. Why don't they just go retire and get out of this industry? They do, because they just want to slash and burn. It's bottom line. You're talking about the hedge funds. Sales is too expensive. It's a necessary evil. If you know what I mean, that we're going to look at Google and Facebook, all DIY money. Why can't we go DIY? What do you say to that person who thinks you and I are just too old? You know, I wrote the book in 2008. That was 12 years ago. What do you say to that person?
Well, I mean, first of all, you really have to ask them what their mission is, what their ultimate goal is. I mean, is it a real estate play and they really don't care? Is it an ego play and they really don't care? But if they want to make money, and most of these guys want to make money, that's what they're in it for. Undoubtedly their backup is your real estate, but and what they could sell the assets for. But if they want to make money, if you've got some smart ones, you can talk to them, and they do invest, and they do. But there's not that many of them out there right now, and it's kind of disappointing. And you're never going to build a business via email. You just can't. And that's and if they don't care about the revenue, or if they don't understand what generates the revenue, then you got a big problem. And fortunately, what I do is things I couldn't do when I worked for a McClatchy or Gannett or Cox. I couldn't be straight up necessarily all the time.
Right.
But as a consultant, I can just tell them how it is. And that's a couple old farts can do that. Because you know what? I don't care, really what you say. I'm in it to make money. And I've always been it since I was a young kid. I want to make money. And if I ask them that, you want to make money, or you want to lose money, it usually gets their attention. So
I had a financial guy tell me that you agree with me that crisis always accelerates change. So COVID did accelerate a lot of moves right now. But he said, no, there will be no human interaction. It's over. I mean, people aren't going to get back in airplanes. Don't invest in airlines. Don't invest in hospitality. There won't be conferences. You vehemently disagree. You are basically, you're just like, I don't know, the old guy walking up to the young guy and saying, wait a second, things don't change. Sales is still sales. Sales is an exchange of emotional energy. You're back to the body language game, right? They're 60% of sales is nonverbal. It's how you're being perceived. All that and more. If you negate that, and if you're the CFO saying, wait a second, we're not going to send anybody anywhere anymore, we're going to do all this virtually, that, in your opinion, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, that is a formula to fail. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That puts you in a death spiral. No doubt about it. I mean, I've been paid, and I'm sure we're paid to be the optimists. We're paid to be the cheerleaders. And we're paid to be creative in our vision. There's a gentleman that I worked for many years by the name of Gene Grant.
Yep.
With McClatchy. The guy was the most innovative up person. We were going through multiple bankruptcies when I was in California with him. And that guy would be there creating new opportunities. So we lost a $5 million account over here. Let's do this and get this going over here, and never was down. And I think we lack that creativity nowadays. And why are companies like Walgreens, Walmart, Ulta creating advertising solutions? That's our job, but we weren't creative enough to create a programmatic opportunity where Ulta is going out and doing it, and where Walmart is selling that to other advertisers. That's our business, and they're stepping into it because we've had our head in the sand, and we're not willing to hold it high. We're not willing to step up to the guy that controls the dollars and say, hey, are you in this to make money? Are you in this to sell the property and get as much as you can for it and leave? And there are some of those, unfortunately.
So you're basically two old whatever F's here. One of my favorite speeches I do to wake up an audience is stop overthinking, just sell audience. I mean, just take a breath. What we do for a living is rent eyeballs. I mean, that's what we do, whether they're digital or print. Get back to the basics of this thing, whether it's programmatic, whether it's social media. Stop. I used to say I didn't have to teach my salespeople how the press works to sell print. Why are we caught up in the, I mean, all garner me those eyeballs and let's get creative and help the advertiser, as you would say, make your cash register ring. It's that simple, John.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think it is, and we've made it so complicated that it isn't anything else but we got to be able to deliver that audience, and that's the key part.
Problem.
And that's the key thing. And like I said, I won't go off on a tirade on the content side, but our content is abysmal.
You're discussing the hedge funds and what they've done, but there's still some families out there that have ink in their veins.
Yeah.
There are great stories of local entrepreneurs picking up newspapers and rejiggering them and getting us back on track. So basically, it's go back to basics. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, the format, who cares about the format? I don't care whether it's digital or print.
Right.
And
Glossy or tab, weekly, daily, monthly, it don't matter.
Yeah. I mean, look at Pittsburgh. They took innovation. They created NewsSlide, a tablet solution. I mean, it wasn't unique to have a tablet solution, but their solution, what they did is local. It's local news and putting it together very effectively. Now they got to create the audience and the way you do that is through the combination of advertising, but content. And when our newspapers, I don't know for what reason, whether it's, and I do know, but I'm just, if you start taking your editorial pages and you're moving them all throughout the paper so that your whole newspaper is an op-ed page, you're not going to keep people. And that's, give me the news, let me make the decision as far as what is, but just give me the news straight up. If you have an opinion, keep it on the op-ed page and you'll grow your business. But you're constantly running editorial on the front page, on the second page, on the third page, whatever it may be, and you're chasing people away because people have different views and different opinions. Yeah, there's an innovation going on the TV side. Have you heard of News Nation?
Yes, we have it here in Tampa Bay. They're promoting it off of Channel 8.
News Nation coming out of Chicago is, the time slot is terrible, and they're adjusting it right now. I have a good friend who's a consultant for them, and they're championing themselves as being an unbiased news. So it's right now it's kind of boring because they haven't quite figured out how to do it, but it comes on at 8:00 at night, which is kind of a dumb time slot. But I think they're going to adjust from there. But if you can focus on marrying the content that people want to or need to see, which give me the straight up on COVID. Don't give me your spin on it, and put the right advertising together. What will grow. And once again, I'm an optimist. I think we can do it. But we're going to have to invest some money, and that's hard to come by right now.
Well, to the audience, my apologies. The two old timers here, although you look half my age, sir. I'm going to move over to Palm Beach and get out of the water. Must be better there. But
it's warmer.
Two old guys who have spent decades in this industry are saying, stay in your lane, do what we know we do best, which is report the news and separate news from opinion. That's one of the reasons I love this industry, because that's what we're supposed to do. Get back to building relationships with those advertisers and help their cash registers ring. And we've got a bright future, but keep slashing and burning, and then we got a problem. And you called it the death spiral, if I may be so bold. Jim, if someone's interested in subscribing to your morning clips, daily clips, excuse me,
yes,
or just chatting with you about the future of the industry or need some help, how do they get a hold of you, sir?
They could email me. We could do a Zoom. No, just kidding. My email address is jkelly@dailyclips.org. Daily Clips is free to anybody who wants to get it. Like I said, you and I were talking the other day. I've got over 17,000 folks who get it directly, plus a lot of people pass it on from there. But if you'd like to get it, I'll add as many folks who want to get it. Just send me a list, send me just your single email address, and I'll be glad to add you. So, stay
healthy, my friend. Wear a mask, okay? We need you.
Thank you. You as well. And you've added a lot of energy to E&P. That's great to see.
Well,
so, thank you.
Hashtag blushing. Have a good day.
Thanks. Have a good day.